Call this meeting to order and declare that there is a quorum present and the media has been notified. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the agenda. It's been seconded. Do we have anyone with discussion? At this time, we'll take a vote on this. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All the opposed, same sign. Then the agenda is approved. Moving on to agenda item number 3. Would everyone please stand with us with the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to agenda item number 4, the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of the September 22nd, 2015. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for the regular meeting of September 22nd, 2015. A second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of September the 22nd, 2015. And it's been seconded. Do we have any discussion? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Then the minutes for the September 22nd meeting are approved. Moving on to agenda item number 5, citizens' comments. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines as speakers. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action or public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. To maximize the participation, comments will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and the board has set aside a total of 30 minutes for public comments. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to these guidelines. We have one speaker tonight, is Ms. Yvonne Bradley. If you'll come to the podium. She is referring to the petition to name the newly renovated auditorium at Cross High School in honor of Mrs. Wilhelmina Moore.
Good evening to the Berkeley County School Board. As he said, I'm Yvonne Bradley, and I'm representing the parents, students, and faculty and staff of Cross High School. We are asking that you name the newly renovated auditorium in honor of Ms. Wilhelmina Moore, our former board member. Ms. Moore has been active since the 1970s. She is our Angela Davis of the time. As you remember, she has the afro to go along with it. She has worked tirelessly for Cross to make sure that Cross, as well as the other schools in her district, receive what other schools have received on this end of the county. She made sure that we were advocates for our students. She was there when we needed her, and in this, her time of resignation, we supported her as well. Her very presence at any community meeting or activity turned the mood from bleak to possible. We're gonna make it work, was her favorite expression. Although she did not graduate from Central Cross High School as it is now, it was her alma mater. She worked for Cross. She spoke up for Cross. She bragged on Cross. She fought against some of you very aimlessly, very fruitfully for Cross. And she taught us so much about ourselves and others. We consider her the Energizer Bunny because no matter what time we called, she was always there. She was always moving. So therefore, on behalf of Ms. Moore, we are asking that you name the auditorium at Cross High School the Wilhelmina Moore Auditorium. Thank you so much. It is a true testament to her visionary leadership and her educational skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bradley. Going to agenda item number 6, Mr. Dion Jackson, Administration and Facilities. We have 3 items for action. The second reading of attendance line proposals for the Philip Simmons Schools and grade configuration change for Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School, the Philip Simmons High School GMP, and the recommendation to name the Cross High School Auditorium. Mr. Jackson.
Good evening, Chairman Hayes, Dr. Turner, members of the board. As you said, tonight have the second and final reading for the attendance line proposal for Philip Simmons Schools and the grade configuration change for Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School. As you know, the last meeting we had the first reading, went over a little bit of the process, and I'll go through it quickly. Some of the the process for establishing the new attendance lines, what to consider. We solicited feedback and input from the community, schools, and also the schools that will be impacted are listed here. Really quickly, the green, again, is the Cane Hoy area. The purple is the Clements Ferry area, and the tannish color here is the Daniel Island area. Quickly, this is the attendance zone, the proposed attendance zone for the Daniel Island School. This is the proposed attendance zone for the Philip Simmons Elementary School and Middle School. The green is the proposed attendance zone for Cane Hoy Elementary, which would be converted to a pre-K through 5th grade. Philip Simmons Middle School and Philip Simmons High School. Students in the green here will attend Philip Simmons Middle, Philip Simmons High. Sorry about that. These are the community engagement efforts. Again, just quickly highlight the fact that we had held 2 meetings, and since the last meeting, actually since these meetings, all of this information was posted online. We received feedback overwhelmingly. It was positive feedback. And since the first reading, we really hadn't received any additional feedback that would prompt us to change anything. So here we have it, is the lines hadn't changed since the first reading. So there we have it. And with that, it's the recommendation of the administration to adopt the proposed attendance lines for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, and Philip Simmons High School as presented for a second and final reading. With the adoption of these lines to include an amendment to the attendance lines for Daniel Island School and Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School, and change the grade configuration for Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School to pre-K through 5th grade. The proposed changes, if approved, will go into effect upon completion and the opening of the new schools.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the administration recommendation to adopt the proposed attendance line for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, Philip Simmons High School as presented for second and final reading, with the adoption of the lines to include an amendment to the current attendance line for the Daniels Island School and Cane Hoy Elementary Middle School, and a change in the grade configuration of the Cane Hoy Elementary Middle to pre-K 5, and the proposed changes, if approved, will go into effect upon completion and opening of the new schools.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt the proposed attendance lines for Philip Simmons Elementary, Philip Simmons Middle, Philip Simmons High School as presented for the second and final reading, with the adoption of these lines to include an amendment to the current attendance lines for Daniel Island School and Cane Hoy Elementary School, and a change in the grade configuration of Cane Hoy Elementary Middle to PK 5. The proposed changes, if approved, will go into effect upon the completion and the opening of the new schools. This motion has been seconded. Do we have any discussion? Then let's vote on this motion. All of those in favor of this motion respond by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then this motion carries 9-0. Thank you. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, sir. At this time, I'd like to ask Gene Sides and the team from Thompson Turner Construction to come forward with the presentation on Philip Simmons High School GMP.
Good evening, Chairman Haynes, Dr. Turner, and members of the board. I'm here tonight to present the guaranteed maximum price for the Philip Simmons High School at Cane Hoy Plantation. In addition to the GMP, we appreciate the opportunity to provide you some additional and creative insight on this project in the design and bidding process that presented some coordination efforts from all team members over the past few months. Our team is looking forward to providing Berkeley County School District with another quality project. At this time, I'd like to introduce the other team members who will assist with the presentation tonight. With McMillan Paston Smith is Ms. Paulette Myers, she's the project architect, and with Contract Construction, Mr. Hal Turner, Vice President. I'll give it to you, Hal.
We'd like to thank y'all for having us here to talk about some exciting news, something the team's been working on diligently now for some 2 years, and we're excited that all of this has culminated into what we're going to present to you. Paulette's going to show you a little bit about the project and the new state-of-the-art facility they've designed, and then we're going to share with you some schedule and budget information.
Give us a second to get going. Like Al said, we're excited to be here. We brought this project to you in conceptual design last year, and we haven't been back since, so we're excited that it's developed this far. Once we get this going, Philip Simmons High is a school for, okay, we skipped ahead. It's a school for 1,200 students with a core capacity of 1,500 students. That means we can start with a capacity for 1,200. Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us. And like I said, the school has started for 1,200 students with a core capacity for expansion to 1,500. The school is divided into academies. So we have 5 academies, a 9th grade academy, a STEM academy, arts and humanities, and business and hospitality. We like to say that the design takes its inspiration from the forest that it's housed in. This area is completely undeveloped. And so when we like to describe the building, we think about it as we're walking through a trail or an alley through the forest. And as you progress through the building, you get to clearings where things happen. So this is the alley through the building, which takes you all the way through from the student parking here all the way through to the central academy where all of the academics are housed. And as you progress through this, you come to social spaces where the plan opens up into areas that we like to call the technology forest and then the outdoor learning forest. The overall project size is 215,000 square feet. Now, this is an animation that we prepared, and I'll just talk through it a little bit as it goes. You'll see the mass of the 215,000 square feet. It's pretty large, and so we've taken that mass and broken it up a little bit so it sits a little lightly in the forest. You don't see all the trees, but there are trees quite around us and a lot of wetlands as well. So now you're approaching from the main road into the development, and you'll see the massing of the academies to your right, and then we'll go through the main entrance here as you approach. You go into the main entry, it's a secured entry, and then to a lobby which opens up into a 2-story space. We have the school's name for Philip Simmons, so we've incorporated some design ideas where we're working with the Philip Simmons Foundation there. That's a little introduction to academies, and then you turn into the school and you progress toward the academy building, which houses 4 different academies. And this is one of these. As we approach, you'll see we get to a gathering space where something happens. You decide which academy to go to when you get to this spot. And so we're quickly going upstairs, and then we're going to go into the Health Science Academy, and we're going to enter one of the science rooms. 2 of the science rooms are pulled out on the front facade, and they create more of an entrance. And so these 2 science rooms have a little higher space in there, and the window's a little bit larger in just these 2 spaces. You'll see really current lab casework in this particular lab. So we're going to progress, and now we progress back to the center space, which is a theater that sits about 715 people. It's central location. You're able to lock the school off so you can have functions in the evening separate from the rest of the school as well. And now we move to the media center. The media center is open, and you overlook onto the front entry with some nice shading from the west sun. And now we're going to go through a small little conference room that's off the media center, and it kind of overlooks into that room that I call the technology forest, which is just a commons area. It's also an area that helps the cafeteria expand. And it's a place that's full of outlets for power and connections. It can be used as a classroom space. It can be used for informal learning, and its location to the cafeteria, which you'll see adjacent to it, it helps for expansion of seating into that space as well. When you're in the cafeteria, look through the windows, and there's a little outdoor seating there, and you can see a little bit of the art courtyard, which is also located for north light, so it gets the best light, and they have it. And now you've gone into a typical classroom area. Every academy opens up with a little tiny bit of informal learning as the corridor opens up to some of the classroom spaces. And that's rather typical for each one of the 5 academies. And then just a shot into the gymnasium. The gymnasium has a regular gymnasium and then an auxiliary gymnasium that opens up with a walk-draw curtain. So you can sit, if you have the full 1,500 in the gymnasium. And that's pretty much it. You're going to go outside and you'll see the sports facilities. There's a stadium design. That's the bus parking as you fly through. And then the stadium. That's just a quick overview of the school plan. And these are just a few renderings. You'll notice that I said Philip Simmons High. The sign that you see in the far rendering on the left, we've been working with the foundation to help design that sign that has a little bit of ironwork, and we're working with Carlton, Philip Simmons' nephew there. Just a few renderings there. And then the site plan, you'll see how difficult it's been to locate this building on this tight site. There's a lot of wetlands there, but we've done a good job. And I'm going to hand it over to Hal because construction has actually started for site work, and so now he's in charge. So thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. I guess you've handed me the baton here. You'll see over to the left the new site where you see the clearing that's been done there, and actually that site is orientated with the same as Paulette's general arrangement plan over here to the right. It gives you an idea of the actual mass of the site. And she's really done a great job of nestling it into these retention ponds and wetlands, and she's used almost every square inch of the site where it's available. So site work has started out there. We got the trees cleared and began. We actually are trying to prepare for a proof roll now, and we've been fighting sort of some of the inclement weather that we've been dealing with, but we're optimistic we'll get a successful proof roll here and begin putting in the building pad next week. Schedule, just a little update on this. We've overcome some good challenges. With your good graces, we were able to get site work awarded early. We were not able to start as early as we'd like due to some permitting with OCRM and also working some issues out with the city on Charleston. I'm happy to say that those items have been resolved, and we were actually able to begin work here on September 9th, about the time we received bids on the building. We're still projecting a completion date of August 27th. We are looking closely at some of these setbacks from where we would have liked to have been and some of the weather. If there were some things come up, we could come up with maybe a phased approach to non-essential, but right now we do not believe that'll be necessary. As far as bid information, we solicited bids throughout the area and throughout the state, and we actually in some instances had to go outside of the state, something that we wouldn't necessarily like to do, but when you're successful as you've been in this area in recruiting new industries, it's really pushed hard on our subcontractor and vendor market. But I'm happy to say that we have with local and minority firms, Nate Spells, who's in audits with Construction Dynamics, has helped work hard with us. We've got right at $16,394,000 worth of local and minority participation. $5.5 million of that is minority participation, and Nate and I are still working hard, but that's almost 24% of the project. So we feel really good about the fact that we've been able to embrace a good substantial part of the local market. in the GMP that Gene will present here shortly. Accepted alternates. Right now, you saw the general arrangement plan that Paulette showed. In this, we have the base bid, we have all of the athletic facilities, football, baseball, softball, and tennis. We are recommending to hold back on some of the sports lighting as a value engineer, and we're still carrying a construction budget that once we get the site work behind us and get a roof on the building and know that there's not anything out there that could get us, then we would look at putting some of those back with Connie and Gene and your staff. We've also have some miscellaneous smaller alternates down below, and we're shelling in an academy, 2 academy spaces that will not be occupied for 2 years. So that'll give you the chance to grow into that. We looked at possibly not building the shell, but this would be a least inconvenience to you if you upfitted this whenever that population hit the school. So that's all part of this GMP, and with that, I'll turn it over to Gene to present the final numbers.
Mr. Chairman, it is the recommendation of the administration that the board approve the Thompson Turner Construction Company's guaranteed maximum price, GMP, of $69,472,615 for the construction of the Philip Simmons High School and the overall project cost of $83,793,851. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the Thompson Turner Construction Company's guaranteed maximum price of $69,472,615 for the construction of Philip Simmons High School and the overall project cost of $83,793,851.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the Thompson Turner Construction Company's guaranteed maximum price of $69,472,615 for the construction of Philip Simmons High School and the overall project cost of $83,793,851. It has been seconded. Do we have any discussion?
Quick question, what is meant by the shell building? Does that mean it's just going to be a shell with no classrooms and have to do it later, or is it actually going to be completed but just no furniture in there?
You are correct on the on your first shot. It would be a shell. The interior would not be finished. It could be completed at a later date. That decision was made based on once we open the school will not open at full capacity. We would have an opportunity to grow into those additional areas.
So do we have a cost estimate on what it'd take to finish building that part of it?
You want to go back to it? You have it. I wanted you to see it on the presentation, but it's about 1.6 million.
If it was just $1.6 million, why don't we just build it now?
The question is, why do we need to save the $1.6 million? Because our projection for this total project, if we're trying to maintain the bond monies, make sure we finish all of our projects. And this 1.6 million, it might be there, and we just don't know at this time. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Correct. As you know, when we go through this process, we allot a certain amount of money for contingency. As we continue through the process, if we do not use the great deal of contingency, we could complete that portion of the project towards the tail end. So why not just do it right now? We want to make sure that, one, that we're within budget immediately and within budget and able to continue with our building program as a whole.
I mean, if we're delaying building part of it, doesn't sound like we're within budget already then.
Okay, so, yes.
That's fine, I'm just making the statement, you know, if we're gonna hold off on building part of it, it looks like we're already not within budget on the project.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing is the initial enrollment's gonna be like 400 or 600. We really can house those students in the academies for the freshmen. Why go build and have warranties on HVAC equipment that are gonna sit there for 2 years?
Right.
Now, the contingency is $3 million. So if we get into construction, we get further along, maybe by the time that school opens, we might opt to go ahead and pay that another $1.5 million to get that shell. And then I would have saved 2 years on those ones. So those are kind of things. It'd be better to shell it, if change any program, change our mind, we'll be able to tweak it possibly. So to start the project right now, it's going to start. It's a 2-story section.
Right. I'm just thinking when we built Cane Bay, we didn't show any of it, so, okay.
But along those lines, and Ms. Myers, I'm behind the flag and the speaker if you can't see me. Well, I'm so thin, you can't see me. I would venture to guess that the square footage price since the referendum has increased significantly. I think we had estimated $160 per square foot at that time. Where are you right now? Because that's probably your main issue.
It is. The main issue is NDC.
Absolutely.
On this project, they contacted 17 electrical contractors, and it only was 2 years.
Right. Right.
And, you know, Hal said something to me that, hey, Dawson had to do this before it was run.
Exactly. Exactly.
So right now, the only thing is the price is going to go up. How graciously has frozen the price for us to school.
Gotcha.
We've seen, you know, just in MEP, it's almost been a $20 a foot
Right.
increase. And then, you know, in 12, they were forecasting an index of around 2.5. It was actually 2.1. I think it was forecasted 2.5. The last 2 years, based on the Big Turner construction that does indexes throughout the country, they've had here running at 4.4%. So with the inundation of all the stuff on the market, you know, you got the good luck of having all this good industry protection coming, but it's affecting, you know, the workforce and the staffing that's available. And, you know, thank goodness we got some of this site underway with the Baldwin site. We took some of that. So we have had challenges, and this shell concept is one we've seen in several places where you don't have to come back and disturb the outside of the site. It's an easy way. And like Ms. Myers said, if we get toward a point, you know, we're trying to be conservative here in that contingency, so we don't have to come back and see you, and we're not. But that can be used at that point to transfer into that, you know, seamlessly in the last 12 months, and it would be an option then. So.
We'll have to come back to you if we do that, so then we change it up to $100,000. That's why it's still going to
I believe Mr. Obie's concern is legitimate. But I also, from what I've seen tonight, in fact, I would say to Mr. McQuillan to my left and my good friend at the far end, Mr. Wright, I think you've got a beautiful school named after a beautiful man. Let's take our time and do it right. I think that was a song from the 70s. But let's take our time and do it right. The only question I would have for Mr. McQuillan and Mr. Wright is we need to, once we've approved this guaranteed maximum price, we need to determine what you're going to be called. Because I don't want to call you the home of the fighting mascot. And I need to tell the people in Hanahan who we will be crossing that bridge to defeat. So please let us know your mascot. But Mr. McQuillan and Mr. Wright, congratulations. You have my full support tonight. Congratulations.
Any further discussion?
I just want to say thank y'all for the presentation. These things blow my mind when you do the school fly-throughs. That's incredible. So thank you. It really kind of gave us a feel for what it's actually going to look like inside. That was very impressive.
Anything else? All right, then let me repeat again the recommendation of the administration to approve the Thompson Turner Construction Company's guaranteed maximum price of $69,472,615 for the construction of Philip Simmons High School at an overall project cost of $83,793,851. All of those in favor of this proposal, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, same sign. The motion carries 9-0. Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir. I'll get through this one, and this will be it for me for tonight. On September 28th, I believe the board received a letter, a request from the administration at Cross High School to rename the auditorium, newly renovated auditorium at Cross High School in the name of Miss Wilhelmina J. Moore, citing her lifelong career as an educator and a member of the Berkeley County School Board for over 20 years. Miss Moore, as a pillar of the Cross community and as a board representative, was a champion for high-quality education, educational experiences for all children of Berkeley County. Naming the auditorium after Mrs. Moore will be an aid in immortalizing her legacy of a tireless worker, who promoted Berkeley County, the mission of Berkeley County School District. That letter was followed up by a request from one of our board members, Reverend Barnes, who also made a request on behalf of himself and the members of District 7, and went as far as gathering signatures for that request as well. And to date, I believe those signatures approach 1,400, somewhere around 1,300, 1,385. That's a lot of signatures. This request was submitted to the superintendent, who gladly supports the request and actually makes the recommendation in accordance with policy, Berkeley County School District Policy FDC. It's a recommendation of the superintendent that the school board name the auditorium after Ms. Wilhelmina Moore in honor of her 20 years of service as a representative of the Cross community and on the Berkeley County School Board, and her tireless efforts in support of public education.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, with honor and respect to this board and to the superintendent, I take great pleasure to move that we accept the recommendation of the administration and that the auditorium at Cross High School be named the Wilhelmina J. Moore Auditorium in honor of Ms. Moore's long service and support of Berkeley County School District.
Second.
We have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration that the auditorium at Cross High School be named the Wilhelmina J. Moore Auditorium in honor of Mrs. Moore's long service and support of Berkeley County School District. Is there any discussion? Then we'll vote on this. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
I want to thank the citizens of District 7, especially those of Cross Community who was represented here today, the principal of the school, and the superintendent and board members, and all of you who supported that. This is a worthy cause to honor someone who have done great work. And I want to thank you tonight, and I know she'll be more than pleased to know that you remembered her, although she's not sitting here at District 7. So we thank you tonight for what you've done.
Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 7, financial services. Mr. Thomas, we're looking at the items for information, the budget update, the 2015-16 budget update, and the 2015-16 financial report for the period that ends September the 30th, 2015. Mr. Thomas.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Turner and Dr. Murray, I thought it might be appropriate to give kind of a quick update on the 15-16 budget with some of the issues related with student growth and some issues related to the reset of the fee in lieu and some other items that hopefully will give you some comfort at the end. So I wanted to share a little bit there. The first is we've projected initially 31,886 students, or for an estimated increase of 488. It actually turned out to be the 10-day 32,330, and that's in the K-12 group, not the pre-K-12 group, and that's what we count for student enrollment and what we receive funding for. So that increase actually estimates additional revenue about $852,329 based on the different weightings of where those students might fall. So we're estimating about $852,000. If you do remember, on the Berkeley County reset of the FELO agreement, we estimated a reduction of about $561,000 based on the reset from 80-20 to 70-30. But based on budgetary practices that we hold, we'll be okay with that reset. We didn't budget as much as we thought, or under kind of, targeting that number actually. So we'll be good there. We are currently reconciling taxes and fee in lieu revenues, and so when I get all that done, I will have another follow-up meeting with the county to kind of talk where we're over or under or where the differences might be. So once I get that, I'll follow up with that as well. Secondly, with that student growth, we have elementary and middle and high allocations that Dr. Turner had asked the board to give us permission to allocate. And so with that comes cost. So I wanted to share that. Those two items, I broke them down to elementary and middle high for a total cost of about $1.2 million. So if you put those two together, the $852 and the $1.2 million, we're kind of a little bit under. But following that, wanted to share some information with our P-card rebate. Last year, we have a very robust P-card program, and with that, the state of South Carolina, through Bank of America, gives us a rebate, or anybody that uses a rebate. So last year, our rebate was $237,000. This year's rebate was $548,000, because we're constantly working with vendors to maximize. They're getting paid faster, but we also get a benefit from that as well. So we're seeing a tremendous increase in our rebate. So that difference is $310,000. We also, in the previous presentation, savings on insurance premiums of about $641,000. So if you put all that together, we're in a positive situation and a robust situation with the budget. Again, once I get back with the county on the fee in lieu, we'll share that information once I know that. But basically the conclusion is the increased allocations due to growth will be more than sufficient to offset the increase in cost and state revenues. What I would suggest at some point in time is, based on these numbers, maybe come back and maybe either amend the budget up, so we'll show the numbers when we come to June 30th that they might fit, but we'll have that discussion later in the year. So wanted to share that information with you. Any questions?
Just one quick question. Dr. Turner, has there been any update on the communication regarding the FELO reset? I think we were working with county council to keep that from being a moving target.
No, sir, we have not had any formal discussions, although I know that our new superintendent will probably have discussions with the county council in short order after she takes office.
We're going to scare her tonight.
Well, she
Although
stayed all day,
don't
so I think
she
we're
gets
okay.
No, I think they're looking forward to working with her.
I think they are too. I do. Thank you.
And again, at some point in time, I did email Mr. Callahan today to hopefully in the next couple of weeks to maybe have just a one-on-one with him, and then maybe Mrs. Blackburn and Mr. Pegler and I and Tim can have a meeting later on, so.
Thank you.
As part of our areas of focus, we wanted to share just kind of like a budget update just on expenditures through September 30th. This is, again, September 30th, and the ideal remaining percentage is 75, and I'll tell you why that's significant on the next slide, or the slide after next. But these are expenditures and revenues through September 30th, 2015. These are our revenues, and as you can see, we break them down into local, state, and federal sources. Federal sources are more just like indirect costs and things like that for operating programs like IDEA and Title I, that sort of thing. So that number will kind of stay low until the end of the year when we start booking that. But the local sources are things like local taxes, fee and lieu, those kinds of things. And as you can tell, that number is low. And the reason that's low is because we don't normally get those taxes until about January. Hence the reason for the tax anticipation note that you all approved for this year's budget. So we'll use that process for cash flow as payrolls progress through time when we get those taxes. The state revenue is basically our state aid, EFA, and those sorts of things. So, and those come on a monthly basis. So you see the budget to receive is 87%, and the ideal remaining percentage was 75. So we're kind of not there, but that's normal for this time of year. On the expenditure side, we want to see a higher budget to expend. You'll see 84% versus the 75, and that difference is the summer accruals for teacher salaries. So we want to maintain at least an 8 to 10% deviation for those areas to absorb the summer salaries for teachers and those sorts of payrolls. And you see the different categories of instruction, support, and transfers and that sort of thing. This is federal and state revenues, and this is traditionally, again, Title I, IDEA, and some state restricted funds. These monies are traditionally you expend, and then you get do a claim for reimbursement later on. So we'll be spending a lot of money before we start getting claims, because some of these budgets haven't really been approved by the federal office of the State Department of Education, so there'll always be kind of a lag here. The expenditures are as well on target as well. EIA is the state EIA, the program that was started in 1984, has kind of gotten totally different from where it started. And you know, some of the reasons why they started moving some of the EI money to the base student cost, so that's kind of has kind of gotten totally different from before. So anyway, but we're again on target with that on the revenue side, and we're on target on the expenditure side with that in the different categories of instruction, support, and transfers. Capital projects. This is, if you remember, the referendum and all the capital improvements, but this is going to be kind of like a rolling revenue and cost as we issue bonds for the revenue, phase 2, which we'll be issuing next year. So this number is going to be a rolling number. So we have about 41 yet to receive, and that would be phase 2 of the referendum of 98 million, and then some other monies for Philip Simmons Elementary School, if you remember how that was working. So that's kind of right on target with that. Expenditures, 79% left to spend, but y'all just spent 82 million tonight, so we'll be getting close to that as well. We're not right all at once, but we'll be spending it pretty fast. Food service, which will be the last group of funds. Again, this is a fund where we have a lot of free and reduced revenues to send to the State Department, and they'll reimburse us after the fact. So this will be kind of a lower there'll be a catch-up fund where we'll start getting reimbursed later on in October, November, and December. So those numbers will start catching up, and expenditures are right on target. So wanted to remind you again, our goal 5 of fiscal responsibility and the areas of focus, and wanted to share one story on number 5. With the recent storm, our bond rating companies and our insurance companies called me wanting to know how we were doing. So they were worried about us. So that was a good feeling. I think they were more worried about their assets than really how we were doing. But they did call and ask how we were doing. So I did want to share that. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 8, Human Resources. Dr. Levine, first reading of the policies, AE, BCBJ, BCBK, KBA, and the first reading of some new policies, rules, and exhibits. Dr. Levine.
Yes, I know it sounds like alphabet soup. You have a lot in front of you there tonight, but good evening, Board Chair Hayes, Interim Superintendent Turner, and school board members. There are several policies listed on tonight's agenda for first reading. The policies listed under item 8A are policies that currently exist in the district and are up for revision, while those listed under item 8B are policies that do not presently exist in the district but are being recommended as additions. The aforementioned revisions and policy additions are based on information received in the 2015 Policy and Legislative Update Manual provided by the South Carolina School Boards Association. The items noted under item 8A of tonight's agenda focus on changes to existing policies regarding school year, board meeting news coverage, executive session, and public's right to know, freedom of information. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading for policies as listed under item 8A of the October 13, 2015 board agenda.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of the policies and exhibit as listed under agenda item 8A.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of the policies and exhibit as listed under agenda item 8A, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm not sure if this is for Dr. Turner or Dr. Levine, but BC, BJ, BK, BK, and KBA, are those all essentially revisions being made based on the new FOIA cases and statute that we talked about at the board retreat, or is that why these are getting changed?
Not necessarily all with FOIA, but mostly.
Okay.
Also, executive session was also on a court case in Abbeville County, as you may recall.
Okay.
And we had a discussion of that at our board retreat, as you may recall. So a combination of court cases as well as new legislation that came through during the last legislative session.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Then let's vote on this motion. All of those in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. And item 8A, approved 9-0.
Thank you. The items noted under item 8B of tonight's agenda focus on the addition of the following policies: administrative rule and exhibits, BC board meeting agenda, and policy on service animals, and also the exhibits 1 and 2, which respectively address procedures for service animals in schools and requests for the use of service animals. At this time, it is the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading for policies as listed under item 8B of the October 13, 2015 board agenda.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of the new policies, rule, and exhibits as listed under agenda item 8B.
I second.
The motion is to approve, to accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of the new policies, rule, and exhibits as listed under agenda item 8B. Is there any discussion or questions?
Let me ask about the service animal. Is this something that's new popped up that we have to do?
Yes, sir.
This is a new state law or something?
Yes, sir. As you may recall, and maybe you're experienced now in public spaces, restaurants and other areas that we have not seen people with service animals previously, whether that is through folks who have or who are handicapped in terms of sight or in other areas of handicapping conditions, have service animals that assist them in having a full life. And those service animals are appearing in all aspects of American life now, in spaces where we have never seen them before. In anticipation of that kind of phenomenon occurring in a school with a student or a faculty member, we think it's prudent to have policies with regard to that well in advance of having it sprung upon us.
Very good.
So at this time, do we have service animals?
I am not aware of any in our district at this time.
Any other discussion? I was reading through the one and I was quite surprised about miniature horses.
Yes, sir. They're now becoming a serviceable animal in that regard.
I can imagine seeing that in a geometry class.
He might do better than some of the others.
I won't nay that.
I have to say, with a child with a very serious allergy, we've been seriously considering if or when a service animal would serve her. So it's not out of the realm of reasonableness, and
Yes, sir.
I'm glad we're ahead of it.
Thank you.
Yes. I'll read the proposal again. To accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the first reading of the new policies, rules, and exhibits as listed under agenda item 8B. All of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then 8B
Thank you.
carries 9-0. Moving on to agenda item number 9, instruction and accountability, Dr. O'Gorman. And this is an item for information, the Berkeley Records and Information Network, BRAIN.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Turner, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about the BRAIN, as we affectionately call it now, and how it came to be and exactly what it does. We were looking for a product, in short, that would help save time for teachers and administrators in terms of digging into data. We find that analysis paralysis occurs a lot as folks are digging to find data, so much so that they don't actually use the data after they get there. So we were trying to create a way in which they could get data very quickly and then move on it. I'm going to call Ms. Diane Driggers up in just a second, but she and some of her team members have sat with us looking at vendors to find a product that would help us look for ways in which we could draw data from PowerSchool, PowerTeacher, Enrich, some other sorts of databases, so that we could get data that we call red flag data to help us identify students that might have discipline issues, grade issues, attendance issues, to quickly identify them as being quote unquote at risk. For those of you that don't know, Ms. Driggers has taught me quite a few lessons since I've been here, And after we'd sat through a few sessions with some vendors, she said, exactly what are you looking for? And so we talked about this, and she said, you know, I think we might can make that. And they did. So I'm going to ask Ms. Striggers to come up now, and she's going to introduce some of her staff members that actually built the brain right here in Berkeley County School District.
Thank you for this opportunity to show you the overview of our data warehouse, or the brain. And it's been developed by our information management department, our area of technology. And information management, just to give you a background, instead of just development from the ground up in this program, what they are responsible for is integrating any of our data, whether it's HR, employee information from CSI, or information from Power School, Power Teacher, is integrating that our data into other systems that we use. The access control system for the doors, so you can get in the door to the school that you're working at. The maps you saw from GIS, the data that we provide through information management is how we know how many students live at each address. So a lot of, pretty much any system, Master Connect, any of the systems we have, it starts with the data. We have to integrate the data with the system with the data that we have within the district. And Jason Frazier is the coordinator for our department on information management. Jason's been with us for about 12 years. It's another one that I feel like I've raised. I've got granddaughter. But Jason's done a great job, and he's going to go through and give you an idea of some of the features of it, as well as he'll introduce the rest of his, some more of his staff that have worked on it.
All right, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. All right, so this is the login screen for our brain, or data warehouse that we have built in-house. We have it integrated with our network system so that users can use their network username and password to access the system. And based on their role, whether they're an administrator or a teacher, it automatically filters. So for example, if they're an administrator, they can see their entire school population. And if it's a teacher, they can see just students that they're teaching. All right, whenever they log in, the first thing they see is a dashboard view. And on this dashboard view, it's broken out into different areas. Again, like I mentioned, if you're an administrator, you can choose which school you want to go at. And once you choose your school, the dashboard will automatically filter and show you your different demographic information for you. So for example, if you wanted to see a quick overview of the enrollment by grade level, you can see that from your dashboard, your attendance information, special ed enrollment, as well as lunch status. If you notice on the bottom left, it's kind of highlighted here with a red circle. There's different filters or different views that you can select. So if you wanted to switch from a grade level view, you can switch it to ethnicity or another demographic view such as gender. And it'll automatically update that for you in your on your graphs. All right, along the right-hand side, these are the different reports and analysis that we have built inside the system. Once you choose one of the analysis, towards the bottom, there's actually a description that kind of describes to the teachers or the administrator what the actual report tells them. This kind of just shows you some of the different reports and analysis that we have built in-house. There's some for attendance, some for courses and grades, discipline, special ed information, and testing. All right, so for example, the first one that I'll go into depth and show you a little bit about is the attendance report. All right, on the attendance report, and as you guys, or as I go through the different analysis that we have set up, you'll see a common theme throughout. We try to incorporate like a filtering top or a filtering section up top where you can do filters based on school. You can set on this attendance report thresholds for days absence, high and low. And what that pretty much means is, say for example, you wanted to see students who may have missed between 3 to 5 days, you can set that with the thresholds. You can also do filters by teacher, courses, grade levels, and specific attendance codes. All right, so once you do that and click submit, it'll show you your report at the bottom. On the left-hand column, it's kind of blacked out now, but those will be the names of the students, the attendance code, the gender, ethnicity, grade level, the total days absent, and the dates that they've missed. Also, another thing that we try to carry throughout all the different reports is a legend, so teachers can quickly go there and kind of get a description of what each of the filters does. They can go there and just get a description of that information for them. All right. There's also a dashboard view under each report, so they can click on that to get a graphical representation of the data that's being displayed. All right. This next example is a report for our grade details. And again, like I mentioned, we try to carry that same theme where you can do your filters up top. Here you can choose your school year, which term, specific students. You can break it down by ethnicity, choose special ed students, a specific teacher or even specific courses. And from there, you can also do grade thresholds. If you want to see students who may be on the cusp of failing, you can set that threshold there and filter just for those students. All right, once you do that filtering, again, you click Submit, and on the bottom, it'll show you the details for those students. Here you can see the students' school year, their name, their student number, the course that they're enrolled in, and also the grades that they've obtained for each term. All right, another report that we have is suspension counts. And again, here you have thresholds or different filters up top. We can set a threshold for the number of suspensions. Here we have it filtered for in-school, out-of-school, or bus suspensions. Once you click Submit and choose your school, again, it will be a similar report at the bottom where you can do filtering or sort it by the number of ISS or OSS days. And then here, this is like one of the biggest reports that we have. This is the actual at-risk report. And again, up top, there's different filters that you can choose. You can choose a filter by teacher, course name, just like I mentioned. It's a common theme throughout. And then along the bottom, in the blue section, you can actually do filtering on each at-risk indicator. Right now, it's looking at 7 different indicators, like the age for the grade level, academics, and what that is whether the student is passing their core courses, whether it's a math or English course, attendance, English proficiency, office referrals, in-school and out-of-school suspensions. On the far right, there's actually a at-risk indicator or at-risk number, and the way that's calculated, if you notice the colors have changed, this is on a scale from 0 to 2, so 0 is low risk, and those are green. 1 is a yellow, medium risk, and red is high risk. So based on that calculation, each student would be given a risk indicator or a risk level. So schools can go there to kind of see students that may need to be targeted a little bit more. All right. Here also, one question that came up, we actually had a committee that we kind of demoed this system to, made up of administrators as well as teachers. And one suggestion that we got from them was, hey, at my school, maybe at risk, maybe a grade level, or students who may have had 1 day of suspension or whatever, 2 days of suspension. How can I adjust that from what the defaults are? So what we did, we incorporated the ability for schools to go in and customize what those at-risk ranges are, so they can go here and set the high and low and medium ranges for their site. All right. Again, here there's also a dashboard view, and from here they can click on that and get a graphical representation of the information. And then also, once they click on a student name, there's actually a student details report, that comes up. And from here, they can get a quick view of the student's enrollment history, how they're performing in their current courses, how they're performing in their past courses, how they're performing on their standardized tests that they've completed or their assessments. You can also look at the absence history, attendance information, as well as discipline information. Another neat feature that we incorporated within the system is there's some school users that are more power users or more technically knowledgeable with Excel. So we incorporated the ability for them to export the information to the Excel spreadsheet, and with that, they can do a further analysis with that information. So here, once they click on that, they can export a spreadsheet, and here it'll be a similar view, and they can manipulate the data further. All right, and just kind of to summarize, what we did and how we went about doing it. One of the main reasons why we kind of incorporated or wanted to work on the system ourselves in-house, kind of like Dr. O'Gorman mentioned, we have a lot more flexibility whenever we develop ourselves, whether we want to add an additional data source. Like recently, we implemented Path Driver or in Mastery Connect. Working, having that system built in-house, we can incorporate additional data sources, so that makes it a little bit easier. We can also customize reports without having to pay additional money to a vendor. We can customize those type of things in-house ourselves. Also, if we needed to switch the layout to make it more user-friendly for teachers or administrators, we have that capability to adjust it. Also, we have 100% ownership in the system. So say, for example, like if we purchased a product and they went out of business or we ran out of funding for it, with this being built in the house, we wouldn't have to worry about doing away with the system. We'd have it forever. Also, another thing, we can ensure integration with our current infrastructure, whether it's working with our network system. Like I mentioned, we can log in with our network username and password. Like, that's one key feature. We can also make sure that it's compatible with our computers and mobile devices and make sure it works with everything that we have in-house. Some of the future enhancements that we're working on, we're going to make the dashboard or that main view that you saw with the graphs a little bit more interactive. We're going to add additional assessment data such as SAT, ACT, Mastery Connect, and Path Driver information. We're going to work on developing additional trend analysis, making a feature available where schools can actually do multiple selections on their filters. And also, we're going to give schools the ability to save their searches. Right now, whenever they select the criteria, it's not being saved, so we're going to work on adding that functionality for them as well. All right, and I just want to acknowledge some of my team members. I have David Wiggins here. He played a big role in helping to develop the system. He's right there in the back. There's also James Openshaw, Missy Fort, and LaSonia Smalls. They've played a big role in helping to implement the system. And also recently Bobby Bowles, he's part of the brain development team. And having him as part of our team is pretty important because we know the technology side of things, but him coming from the instructional side, he gives us a different insight or a different viewpoint to kind of make things a little easier for teachers to understand. All right, if there's any questions, we're here to answer them.
Those persons stand so we can see who you are.
All right.
Yes.
I think I may have to go back to school.
All of us would. Jason, I'd like to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
In the past, in order to get these kind of reports, they were kind of static reports. So if any of these variables change overnight, does the dashboard change overnight as well?
Yes, so we have a link directly to our different information systems, whether it's PowerSchool or Enrich or testing system. The information automatically updates, so whenever students or whenever schools go back into the system, it'll have current data for them.
In other words, it's instantaneous information.
Yep, real time.
All right, thank you.
Real time.
I am the biggest data nerd ever. That is so impressive, and people who love data love to export it into Excel. Every time I touch something, I'm like, if the vendor was thinking, they'd know data nerds want it in the Excel spreadsheet. So, I mean, there were just so many well thought out things that, are in the market. Just very, very impressive. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Frazier, very impressive. As a former principal, you have given them a tremendous tool. They are constantly being asked to provide data, and you've just put it at their fingertips. Very impressive, Mr. Frazier. Thank you.
My question was going to be, prior to this, was there any way for them to get it, or did they have to go to several different sources?
Yeah, we had them in several different sources, like there were reports within Enrich. We created like some of these were like individual reports. We created like on demand. Whenever a school was asked for certain information, we would have like one report just for them. And this kind of brought it all together in one system to kind of make it useful for everyone.
This is brilliant. I love it.
All right.
Great.
I may have missed this, so I apologize. Is it up live? I mean, it's on.
Yes, ma'am. It's currently live. We did the piloting for like maybe about a year, 6 months to a year. And recently this summer during summer leadership, we kind of did a presentation to administrators, and schools have started using it.
So now I know what some buzz was about, because I don't know why, but I had some teachers and a principal share with me how much they love Diane Driggers and all of her children and technology. And now I get it. I mean, I was missing it. I didn't understand. And so thank you. I mean, I just want to add to the chorus here. We've always loved you anyway, but that's really cool, and it's so exciting that you know Berkeley County and you know what they need, and you listen, and you're able to pull it off. It's very impressive.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Keep up the good work.
I also just want to personally thank the technology staff for helping us out, because I know I drive them absolutely crazy. The only mistake they made in all of this was showing us what they could do, because now we're like, oh, well, if you can do that, maybe you can do this. But seriously, I want to thank you both so much for all the work you've done for us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 10. This is the superintendent's report. And I'm not going to even name or go through all the items. We'll let you do it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It is with a great deal of pleasure that I recognize Ms. Brenda Blackburn, our superintendent-elect, who is going to grace us with some comments this evening before she becomes the superintendent.
Well, I have to tell you, it's kind of nice for me to watch you all work, okay? Because I've been used to being the person that does the work in front of you in terms of answering your questions and that kind of thing. And I've been watching you from afar for the last, actually 2.5 months, and you're much better in person than you are on video, okay? Wow, you told me that the strength of the organization was our people, and certainly I had an opportunity to see some of that today, and I have each time I've been in the district, and then not to mention the brain tonight. So what can I say? I arrived yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and I ended up at Red Bank Center at 7:30 a.m. this morning, and it is now about 7:45, and I'm now at, I've forgotten which school, so forgive me, because it's been one of those days. I didn't need to update my car's GPS because I knew the community that I was living in. So I've been working off a 2011 GPS today, and I abandoned that and turned to Siri, and she was much better. But she kept saying, I don't believe I understand what you were asking me. So I don't know if it was me or if it was Siri or if it was Berkeley County roads. I'm not sure, but it's been an adventure today. And everywhere I've been, I have met, great people who had wonderful stories to share. And as I said, I started with the Chamber of Commerce bright and early this morning. I had a number of our board members who joined me there, as well as a number of the cabinet members. And it's always nice to know that you have some people there who are your cheerleaders. And so it was really nice for me to be able to look out at that audience and know some folks by name, because as of this moment, I don't think I knew anybody in Berkeley County until I, took this job and arrived yesterday afternoon. So I thank you for your support. From Red Bank Center, I went to Menriv, and I spent some time there with the board officers, and also I got badged, so I can now officially get into all the buildings in Berkeley County, which I think is a good thing. From there, I spent a little time with the technology folks, and I walked out loaded with new technology, and I can't wait to get home and try it out, but I might not do it tonight. I might do that tomorrow night. Then back to the central office area, and I spent some time with Dr. Turner, and he even made sure I had lunch. And then I started opportunities of talking one-on-one with some of our senior leadership and our cabinet members. And I think between Dr. Turner and Penny, they have me pretty much scheduled, pillar to post every day that I'm here. I'm going to be here 6 days, and I have a feeling by the time I leave, I will know a whole lot more about Berkeley County than I did when I walked into it yesterday afternoon. But I want to share just, something that I've been thinking. I've been looking at you and watching you and reading about you from afar. And, as I prepared to come to Berkeley County yesterday afternoon, I said, oh boy, I'm here. I actually have my feet on the ground in Berkeley County, and I'm waking up every morning thinking about our children, our schools, and our communities. And I'm just really, really excited to be a part of this group. I thank the board again for the opportunity and the tremendous support that I've gotten every single place that I went to ask questions that I thought might not be too smart, but anyway, I always got them treated like they were very good questions, and I appreciate that. I do have a goal, and I have actually 3 things that I really want to accomplish in my first 8 months. And they're not so tangible sometimes. They're things that are hard to place a value on, and sometimes they're things that are hard to measure. But I think they're things that make a real difference for what I can do in terms of providing leadership for the school division. And so I'd like to share them with you. First of all, I'd like to have a clear understanding of our strengths and our opportunities. And, I like to start out new jobs with a real, big experience. And so my first day on the job in Berkeley County will be trying to convince the advanced ed visiting team that I did that report, okay? So I didn't, but anyway. So I want to, really know what are we good at and what are our opportunities. And I think that advanced ed report will really give me a window from an objective third-party observation point about what do we need to work on, because you're great And I know that, and I see the excellence that is evident in this organization everywhere I go. But I always know that if you're good, you can get even better, and so I want to help to do that. Secondly, I want to have a reputation of being visible, approachable, trustworthy, and transparent. You are very, very important to me. I am investing, everything that I have in you. And I want you to know that I have the best interest of our school system and our students and moving Berkeley County forward at my heart. It's very important to me. And finally, I want to have the knowledge that's necessary to help this great organization develop a plan for your next 6 years, because we are not going to stand still. We are ready to forge forward and do even better things and greater things for our students and for teaching and learning in Berkeley County. And I'm just excited to be here and very excited to see everybody in person. And, as I said, I'm waking up thinking about our students, our schools, and our communities, and that is my focus. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Mr. Chairman, on item 10B, Advanced Ed Overview and Board Interviews, we made sure that we put a schedule for the accreditation team, the Advanced Ed accreditation team activities, which will take place between November the 1st and November the 4th. And you all have that same schedule that we have for all of our cabinet members and other people here. I take great pleasure in letting you know that you appear in this schedule twice, board members. Once on page 2, if you will look on page 2, which is November the 2nd, 2015, down in the afternoon in the times segment of 1:30 p.m. to 2:15 p.m., the Advanced Ed team would like to interview the board members. You will notice that you are being interviewed 3 at a time in 3 different places, since there are 9 of you, and you'll notice the location of those interviews, and you will be interviewed as a group of 3 simultaneously, so you'll all be together. You won't be separated, 1 at a time, and they would like to get your input and your thoughts and inputs with regard to the aspects of quality in our school system. So if you'll note, please, the location of that and the time on November the 2nd, which is a Monday. If you find that you will not be available in that time, on that date or at that time, and you cannot meet that interview time, would you be so kind as to give me or Mr. Jerome Davis a call and let us know that you can't? The chairman of the review team would like to have an alternate time that would be convenient to you to be called on the telephone so they could interview you by telephone. So if you will provide the number, the phone number and the time that would be convenient to you in lieu of this interview in person at the district office, it would be most appreciated. They really want to touch base with every board member through that interview process. So please let us know if this is inconvenient to you and you would like to have a telephone interview instead. I will speak later about the last day, which is November the 4th, in my remarks. Also on item 10C, I am giving you early indication that we will have a crisis simulation drill at Hanahan High School on November the 5th. That's the day after the team leaves from Advanced Ed, and it's an active shooter simulation at Hanahan High School. I think all of you know that Berkeley County School District has been having crisis simulation drills for many years now, and we're going to continue that, and I think perhaps now better than 10 years ago, people understand why and how important this is for us to maintain skills with regard to handling such incidents. On item 10D, Makeup Day information, as you all know, we had what I'm calling the flood of 15 occur. And under, if you will note in your materials, there was Makeup Day information. I wanted to make sure that all the board members had the newest law with regard to Makeup Days. And at this time, we have taken action under the calendar that you previously approved to name 2 of the 3 required Makeup Days. Because one, October 19th, is just around the corner, and we've already informed our public that in order to make up Friday, October the 2nd, when we cancel school, we will have school for all students on Monday, October the 19th in the calendar, which had previously been a teacher workday. In addition, for the Monday of October the 5th, when we didn't have school for students or faculty, we are naming the day Monday, January the 4th, 2015, which in our calendar was the 2nd Weather Makeup Day. I wanted to bring it to you now because having had quite a bit of experience in the school district previously, I know that some people make holiday plans in the January time frame, and I want no one to make a holiday plan for January 4th because I want them to come to school. So we're making this announcement about the Makeup Day on January the 4th as early as we can, so people might not make plans for ski vacations and other things that would be a complication with regard to makeup time. The other day, the 3rd day, which is now required by South Carolina law, we will hold in abeyance for some time until the new superintendent and her cabinet and other folks can look at the total calendar and make some decision with regard to the 3rd Makeup Day. It is noted in the calendar, but I believe it's in the March time frame, and is somewhat complicated. I think Mr. Thomas has let me know that something about the 135th day might be a complication in that. So we want to study that and make sure that we are doing the right thing by naming that one as the 3rd day without making any other changes to the calendar. So we're going to hold that in abeyance. But I did want to announce tonight that under the calendar that's previously been approved by this board, we are announcing that October the 19th and January the 4th will be instructional days for students and all staff. Finally, on 10E, in regard to items for information, I have that I would like to make a commendation of employees for exemplary service. This district, as well as many others, and in fact we are a lucky district with regard to the recent flood that we had in South Carolina, we had no schools which were seriously damaged, which is a blessing to us because we have so many schools that have so many children in it and would have disrupted their learning. So we're very thankful for the fact that we did not have that happen. But we had some folks who went out in very uncomfortable conditions to continue to survey our schools during the time that the rain kept falling, and also to make sure that if there was an outage of electricity in the cafeteria, that we didn't lose food that would spoil and have that food moved to another freezer where it remained usable for us. And that happened in the height of the rain and the flooding that was beginning to happen. There are several individuals I'd like to ask stand because I think they deserve special commendation for being out and about in the middle of a flood, caring for Berkeley County School District's facilities and resources. James Thomas, Director of Facilities, would you please stand? Wes Fleming, Director of Transportation, would you please stand? Tim Knight, District Safety Officer, would you please stand? Mr. Dion Jackson, Chief Administrative Officer, please stand. If Linda Fairchild is in the room, Linda, please stand. I am really appreciative of what you did for us. Thank you. And finally, Mr. Chairman, under your advanced ed, this is an action item. Under your advanced ed schedule, you will note on Wednesday, November the 4th at 3 p.m., the team would like to make a report, an exit report, before they leave the district to the assembled board. So all members are asked to appear at the same time to receive that report, which means that we have to have a special call meeting under your rules. So I am recommending this evening, I believe we have somebody else who has that recommendation.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation of the administration to have a special called meeting of the Berkeley County Board of Education in order to hear the report of Advanced Ed Accreditation Review Team on Thursday, November 4th at 3 p.m. In the boardroom in Monk's Corner.
Second.
We have a motion to accept the recommendation of the administration to have a special called meeting of the Berkeley County Board of Education in order to hear the report of the Advanced Ed Accreditation Review Team on Thursday, November the 4th at 3 p.m. in the boardroom. Is there any discussion?
That's a Wednesday, November the 4th.
Yes.
Excuse me.
The 4th, it's a Wednesday.
The Wednesday?
That is a Wednesday, November the 4th at 3 p.m. Is there any discussion? Then all of those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Then 9-0. We will be in special session, November the 4th. Is that everything, sir?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Before we go into executive session now,
Yes.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Turner for remaining calm. And, I mean, you recognize these very important people, and I know there are probably many more. Some people know that I'm an educator and have been a teacher wondering what's going to happen to me when bad things happen. And it's a very stressful time for teachers. It's a stressful time for the parents of those children who are wondering what's going to happen next. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for keeping us informed. I began to hear from teachers, and I'm just going to go here with this because I think it's very important, and I continue to get some calls today. Because one of the board members took your first email to us to bring us up to speed and put it on Twitter and Facebook, it set off about a 3-hour period of time where I was trying to figure out if I was going to be downtown at work. And it was really upsetting to people because I found out after I called Dr. Turner that the principals had not even been informed yet about the cancellation. We have a communication plan in this district. We evaluate the superintendent in one of those areas, or we have in the past, and I'm assuming we'll continue to. It's upsetting to me when we don't follow it because we are putting parents and teachers and administrators in positions that it's unfair. And I may not be very popular right now for making these comments, but I ran for this seat, and I've been serving on this board, and I've served as chair, and worked closely with all of the superintendents that we've had. And that communication plan is critical. It doesn't matter how much any of us, determine something is serious or dangerous. The fact of the matter is, we as board members have to police ourselves, and we have to recognize that we have professionals that know exactly what to do. I trust the superintendents we've had in the past. I trust Dr. Turner. I truly appreciate the calmness that you exhibited. I hated that I had to call you and ask some questions, but I felt compelled to be able to answer questions about what some of the comments in the statement meant for teachers, because some of them were worried about driving to school and getting materials because they didn't know to take things home that day. I'm dedicated to being an educator voice on this board, and I'm dedicated to being a voice for parents. And I'll add grandparents to that, because we worry too. But I hope we can not let that happen again, and that as a board we can honor the decisions that are made. We can understand that when we have information, it is a courtesy that it's shared with us. I'm curious, and I want to know, and I worry just like everybody else, but I wanted Dr. Turner to hear from me tonight that you have permission not to share anything with me if you choose. I'm not going to get in the way of people who are doing the best that they can in a district that is full of talented professionals who know exactly what to do to help take care of my children and my grandchildren. And I could not come here tonight without underlining that and putting it in all capital letters. As long as I'm serving on this board, I am not going to preempt the hard work that all of you do. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate just having a few minutes to share that with you, because we're going to have more emergencies. And I think it's important, and it was important enough for me to take some time in a meeting when none of us need longer meetings, and I know that. But I truly, truly appreciate the calmness and the professionalism that you continue to use with all of us, even when we don't deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would like to, and I think we say thank you, but let's stand and give him thanks for the work that he's done. Dr. Turner, we certainly appreciate Dr. Turner. Thank you so very much.
Moving on to agenda item number 11, the executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session to consider student appeals, attendance appeals? There's 2. Student expulsion appeals, there are 3. And a discussion of pending employment matters, including an administrator appointment.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session at this time.
Second.
We have a motion to go into executive session, and again to entertain attendance appeals, expulsion appeals, and a discussion of a pending employment matter of an administrator. Any discussion? And all those in favor of this motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Then we are in executive session.